Hello and welcome to another video from the Trader Guy at thetraderguy.com. Looking at the euro dollar chart in front of you, you can see there are several lines on this chart, much more than I normally put. And because of that, I will go through these real quickly to kind of explain what's going on. You can see that I have a little bit of a flag pattern here marked out. It's not the prettiest flag, it's not the most perfect flag, but it is close enough for government work, as they say. And it really, kind of has to make you wonder about the future of the euro dollar. On Wednesday, we saw a rise above 145, which I had as an area of interest because you can see it's a large psychologically important round number, and uh, you can see that we actually on Wednesday did pop up above it, but we have failed. Interestingly enough, we have formed a shooting star. The 143.50 is an area where price does react every time it comes near. I would consider it minor only because we do slice through it every time. We eventually get through it, but there is a reaction there, and that is something to take note of. And the flag may not be a flag. It may be a downtrend channel. We don't know. It's not really a flag until we close up above that line, which I had 145 as a reference, because it would not only close above that line, but it would be closing above a psychologically important number. So it's very interesting that we found a shooting star at the top of this channel, and it looks like the channel may or may not be ready to hold, but definitely we saw some weakness in the later hours of the day. 140 can actually be considered 140 to 141, and as you can see, there's support there down to 140, so it's a thick zone. On these larger charts, it's not really that unheard of to have a 100 pip zone, and certainly on the week that's true. So what happens? This pair is going to be very difficult and sloppy to trade for the foreseeable future. Yes, I think it goes down personally, but no, I'm not willing to place that trade right now just because there are so many reasons that I could get hung up. The 143.50, the 141, the 140, the fact that it keeps trying to go back up, the fact that the last low was higher than the previous one. I mean, it's just a mess in the euro dollar. But this got me looking at the euro in general, because I figured if the euro looks kind of soft against the dollar, wonder what it looks like against so many other currencies, because the dollar did get whacked a little bit on Wednesday, even though we did get this shooting star in the euro. Looking at the weekly chart for the euro versus the Aussie, you can see clearly that we have a downtrend, and we rose up above, go ahead and zoom in a little bit, the 140, and then turned around and fell. The low of 136.67 and a half, 136.67 and a half, is the area that we've got to break in order to get a sell signal, which we have actually by about 18 pips or so at one point or another in this week. So this does show that continued weakness may be found in this pair, and it is with the trend. It makes sense. Is it going to collapse? I don't know, but it's very possible we may find ourselves kind of bouncing around in this little area between 140 and 128 over the near term. It would make sense because money flows into Australia as gold gets bought. Europe's got a lot of issues, and even if the markets do accelerate to the upside, stock markets and such, money flows into Australia in those situations. So there's a lot of different reasons why the euro will depreciate against the Aussie. So this chart makes sense, quite frankly, and is a nice setup looking at the way it is. It definitely looks euro negative. Looking at the euro versus the Canadian dollar, you can see that although we do have a little bit of, I don't know, maybe we could call this, start to think about calling this some type of rising wedge or something. It isn't necessarily a clean enough shape for me to get too excited about. But what I do see when I go ahead and put this up is that the 144 area, and my suspicion would be this is probably at least 100 pips thick, does seem to be resistance. We are making higher lows, so that's a good sign for the euro versus the CAD, but it does look like it's starting to run out of steam yet again, so it looks like a pullback may be in the cards for the euro against the Canadian dollar. Looking at the euro versus a nice emerging market currency, the Singapore dollar, which is a proxy for the Chinese yuan most of the time. You can see that the euro also starting to look fairly weak, as we've got a little bit of a flag-ish type pattern. The trend overall is down. However, the information in the past is so spotty, it's really a difficult and an illiquid pair to trade. But as you can see, the trend is down, and it does look like it wants to consolidate to another downward move as well. Another chart that is somewhat interesting is the Euro Norwegian Krona. As you can see, it has been in a range for quite some time. Pretty large range, pretty predictable and reliable range, although should be noted that, and I'll go ahead and I'll make the top of this range more of a zone. As you can see, it's placed there. Should be noted, though, that the last time we approached the bottom, we did make new lows, and then we bounced up and we failed to make the similar highs. We fell just a little bit short. A lot of times you'll see this in some type of wind up before a breakout, in this case to the downside. It shows that the bulls just did not have the conviction that they did before, and as such, this may end up falling, and of course possibly making new lows. Of course, if it makes new lows, then you take the measurement here and just kind of add it as it looks like a breakout to the downside. Now, the one chart that I am going to show you that looks very bullish for the euro against another currency is the euro Turkish lira. And this would be because this would have more to do with trouble in Turkey in itself. It's a high yielding currency, so as the world gets concerned about things, they tend to dump the lira at times, I should say. But as you can see, it is certainly a parabolic move. So looking at the weekly chart, a pullback just pretty much has to come. This is very bullish, but and I'm not necessarily suggesting that you would short this pair, but it does look to me like a pair that desperately needs to pull back. If you look at it on a daily, interestingly enough, we have a shooting star from the middle of last week that was a pretty wicked spike, and it's yet to be triggered to the downside or broken to the upside. So it does look like this pair could possibly have a pullback. So the question is, why am I bringing up all of these European charts? And the reason is that, number one, you have to get your head around the idea that it's not all about the euro US dollar. Yes, I understand it's the most liquid trading pair in the world, and under normal circumstances, it's one of the more predictable ones. I agree with that totally. But sometimes when you see a chart like this, you see it's too messy, and you start looking around, and you begin to realize that, hey, the euro looks kind of weak, and if it's looking kind of weak against the dollar, which looks weak against everything else, then I bet the euro's really weak against a lot of other currencies. And as you can see, as you look around the horn, look at as many pairs as possible, you can see that there are plenty of other currencies that you can play the euro against. You know, the other one that I had liked until recently was this one. This is the Euro Swiss. You know, with the things going on in the S&B and such, with them trying to kill off the franc. Currently, not really a big fan of trading this right now. There will come a time when this becomes another good pair to trade. You'd notice that there's a 4-hour hammer or shooting star at 115, and we'll see if that breaks down. But nonetheless, this is a pair that I've kind of avoided here recently because of that. So as you look around the horn, like I said, you start to see a picture, and it's a picture that the euro may be pulling back. I don't see imminent collapses in all of these charts, but I think essentially what's happened is Sarkozy and Merkel had that meeting, and they came up with more bureaucracies more than anything else. They didn't come up with the Eurobond magic that everybody wanted to see. As such, I think the euro got a little bit of a lift as it appeared that the French and the Germans basically said everybody else is going to have to step up the table and act more like us, which is kind of ironic with France, but act more fiscally sound like the French and the Germans, or we basically can toss them out of the Eurozone. And let's face it, other countries can complain and bitch and moan as much as they want, but the Portuguese to Europe really are nothing. But Europe to the Portuguese is a big deal. course, if the Germans and the French decide to throw everybody out or make their own fiscal union, which some brilliant minds out there actually think may happen down the road, guys such as Dennis Gartman, you may see a new European Union with France, Germany, Netherlands, Finland, probably Austria, maybe Belgium if they can ever get a government, and that might even tempt the Danes to join. This would be, a super euro currency. This would be basically everybody who's fiscally sound. Without all of that, being played out right now, a lot of traders are being left to guess, but it looks like the French and the Germans are ready to tell everybody either put up or shut up and get out. Now, while that initially charged the market a little bit, the truth is the smart money is going to really think this through and think, are we really going to change the behavior of nations overnight? And the fact is they probably won't. So I see a European pullback coming soon, and the charts certainly look that way. Meltdown, probably not, but a pullback, I would definitely expect that these charts do kind of point us in that direction. So the lesson in this is to look at all of the charts, see what you see, and if you start to see a pattern continuing over and over and over again with a particular currency to the downside, well, sometimes the market tries to tell you in its own way where a particular currency is going to go. In this case, if the euro looks like it may be running into trouble, then you find a strong currency to match it up with, and that, my friends, is the essence of trading.